Well, for more, we can bring in our Chief International Affairs Editor, Rob Parsons. Hi, Rob. Now, we are expecting the UK, but also France and Germany to be pressing for that US withdrawal to be extended. How likely is that to happen? And what else can we expect from that virtual summit today?
Yeah, well, the accent has been on UK because UK has the rotating presidency of the G7 at the moment. So it's been Boris Johnson who's been leading the way on the demands or the request for an extension of that deadline beyond August the 31st, simply because they say we will not have enough time to get all the people out that we want to get out, bearing in mind that a lot of people are coming not just from Kabul itself, but across Afghanistan, which is a very big country, in conditions which are not conducive to travel at the moment. Quite understandably. So that's the thinking, that something has to be done to make that possible to happen. The British, the Germans and the French too have been in discussions with the Taliban about that happening. We know that a Taliban spokesperson has said that as far as they're concerned, that's just not going to happen. The 31st of August is a red line for them. And beyond that, well, that's the big question, isn't it? Beyond that, what happens? What are the Taliban prepared to do? And are the Americans, if they're sympathetic with the request coming from the British, the French and the Germans, are they prepared to go beyond that August the 31st deadline and take the risk of what might be the Taliban reaction? It has to be said that logically one would say that why would the Taliban engage in a violent confrontation with the Allied forces at this time when they know that down the line they're going to need as much aid as they can get. They're going to be looking for recognition. And why do something like that which will make it almost impossible, at least in the short and medium term, to get those things when they've already achieved what they set out to achieve, which is control over the country? It's a difficult one for Joe Biden. He understands, I think, that he's antagonized his allies sufficiently already, but is he prepared to take the risk that US troops will once again be dragged into the confrontation? They'll be talking about that in particular, but lots of other issues to talk about as well, including what fills the vacuum, what sort of cooperation should they now have with China and Russia over Afghanistan going forward, putting together a joint front over recognition or non-recognition of the Taliban government, sanctions. Should they be imposed? To what purpose should they be imposed? Should there be a really hard line on women's rights, human rights, all those sort of things? There's an awful lot for them to discuss, but the big issue is clearly evacuation at this stage.
Now, of course, it was Joe Biden's predecessor, Donald Trump, who was the America First president. But Joe Biden himself has also made it very clear that he's going to put American lives and American interests first here as well. How's that going to impact transatlantic ties going forward? You have to suspect it's going to have a big impact going forward. If you just look at what's happening at the moment, first the United States pulling out of Afghanistan, and pulling out in a way, it has to be said, that has been very confusing for the Allies. There's been a lack of consultation, and behind the scenes, EU governments, the British government, are known to be very irritated by the manner in which this has happened. Many of them have had troops in Afghanistan. A lot of them have been killed fighting there. The least they expected was to be involved in the consultations over the withdrawal, over the evacuation. And the feeling is that there has been insufficient consultation. And that is reflective to many of the direction in which the United States is going, and suggests to many that perhaps this is the time for the EU, at least, the UK is a separate category now, of course, to start considering its own policies going forward. Emmanuel Macron has in the past been very critical of NATO, describing it as brain dead, and has been an advocate of European defence. Perhaps now that will be much more on the agenda, although it has to be said that there's been little sign of willingness on the parts of the European states to spend more on defence. The British position is going to be interesting as well, because Boris Johnson has made a play towards the United States and now finds itself effectively caught in mid-Atlantic and wondering which direction to go. But it's clear which direction the US is going. We've got Kamala Harris at the moment in Singapore talking about the switch towards Asia. And a highly critical major foreign policy speech on China, which she's just made. That's a pretty clear indication of where the United States is on this.
Rob Parson, our Chief International Affairs Editor, thank you very much.